Okay, on request of the class, I'm going to do a couple of videos to demonstrate or review what we did in class concerning the figure ground color homework, which we have incidentally added yet one more process, and that's creating a pattern. What you see before you are 6 images, and you are only required to do 5. And in the upper left-hand corner, you have a black and white. Next to that, in the middle, in the upper row, we have grayscale. And then the lower left-hand side, you have a monochromatic. Now, the monochromatic is required for this assignment. And then next to that, I used and that's the middle bottom row, I used a complementary. Now, you can choose to do complementary colors for that image, or you could do analogous, or you could do triad. Then the fifth element, which I'm asking you to do, is to take your original image, the black and white, or if you choose, you could take the grayscale, or you could take the monochromatic, or the fourth that you created, and you're going to create a fifth image, and that's going to be a pattern. Now, the information the information that you can get for that assignment is in our book, and it is under the color section, and I encourage you to take a look at patterns in graphic design, the new basics. Now what I did is I switched screens, and I've gone back to the black and white, and last week I requested that you did some 10 by 10 images in Illustrator. This is the black and white image that was in the upper left hand corner of the last page that you saw. And what I'm going to do is I am going to kind of walk you through the color palette and how you may be able to use Illustrator's color palette to come up with some of the strategies of building a color scheme for a website or a brochure, because as a novice, it is probably one of the most important tasks that you have as a graphic designer, but it's probably one of the hardest to come up with a color scheme that suits your particular project. There's so many colors to choose from, and there's so many different ways to go, that it's good to have a strategy in place, so you may be able to work through a few strategies, and then once you pick one of the strategies, once you start applying it to the actual project, you'll be able to tweak it, lighten some colors, darken them, maybe change the hue a skosh or the saturation, and at least it gives you a good starting point. Where I'm going to start is, now what I did, just so you know where I started, is that under Windows, I'm using everything in application frame, and then what I've also done is under the organization or the workspace itself, I have selected essentials, and then I have reset my essentials. And the reason that I did that is because I want us all to start out at the same place, so you don't have to be struggling to find some of these tools that I'm going to be showing you. Now, the second icon in the tools palette is a color guide, and I'm going to click on that, and it may open, and it probably will open as you see it before you, but what I'd like to do is I'm going to go down to the color wheel where it says edit colors, and I'm going to click on that. Now when I get that, what I can do is I can start playing with hue, which as we talked about in class really means color. Saturation is the density or the richness of the color, the brilliance of the color. And then we talked about tint and shade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up all of the saturation and the brightness so we can actually see some colors here that I can start working with. Now, once I have my color wheel set, what I can do is I can come up here, and what you'll notice is, lucky us, we have the different color models or schemes that we're going to be working with. As I said, one of the schemes I've requested my students to use is monochromatic. And we have two choices here. One's an expanded palette. We have a triad that you could use that way. You have also complementary. And again, you see the actual complementaries and an expanded palette. Any of these would be fine. You could also use analogous, and that would be for the fourth example that I showed you earlier on. Well, I'm going to start messing around with this just a little bit, and I'm going to be looking at, and I'm going to go to complementary, and that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to push them around a little bit. I might add another highlight here. So I now have three colors. You can see the three colors are starting to pop in here. This is still complementary. And I'm going to add one more. Click here, click here. Oops, it's more like a split complementary. I'm going to cheat a little bit and see what we have. Okay. Now that I have done this, I have my complementary palette, and what I want to do is I'm going to, these all seem to be very close in value. This is going to be this is the light tint, this is a very saturated color, but I have a hunch that these two colors, if I turned it to grayscale, they wouldn't be very exciting. So I'm going to take the pink, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delink all of these colors. So now I've delinked it. I'm clicking on the darker set, and I'm going to make that really, really dark. That looks pretty nice. Now these are kind of close. I'm going to select the pink, and maybe I could do it very, very light. I could do it really a brilliant hue. Darken it just a little bit. Okay. There we go. Maybe something like that. So now I have a real brilliant color. I have a very light color. And then I have a color that's kind of right down the middle. I would say the value here would be about 50%. If I turn this to grayscale, that's where I would come up approximately. Now that I have my color set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on New Group. Okay, here's my new group. And if I click here, you can see the CYMK complements, which is fine. And right now I have the colors that I'm going to start working with, and I'm in pretty good shape. I'm going to, what you don't see here, unfortunately my window is bigger than my screen, which is a little sad, but I'm just going to say at this point, okay. And so now what you have here is you'll see that I have my color selections and I have a nice range of color in here. Slide that over just a little bit. And I have, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop and I'm going to restart this video and use maybe a little bit larger window, and so we can actually see a little bit more of what's going on. So I'll pick this up in the next video in the sequence.